we're going to have to breeze through this, but. What?
We got to get going. Go ahead.
What's the bet? Excuse me? We can, as long as something goes there to keep it open. Believe it or not, the air is on.
Okay.
What's the bet?
You'll find out at the end of the session.
All right. First of all, you shouldn't be betting. Okay. Especially if it's against me. Okay. All right. So. All right. Let's get serious, if not for just for a minute. So, I'm gonna separate you guys. All right. So, options. We love options, right? We love to have options in our lives. Our culture has become enthralled with which basically means loaded up with safety nets and fallback positions, keeping our options open. Always have plan B. Talk to any college student and a lot of them will tell you about their dreams or what they really want to do, what they're passionate about, but they'll tell you about how they're hedging they're hedging their bets and making sure they have a fallback position for the vocational future, right? A lot of people major in something and minor in something, or they get multiple degrees because they're really not sure, and if any time was not as unsure as it is now, now is one of those times. Look and talk to people who've been in the workforce for a couple of decades, and they might tell you about their desire to have a solid retirement and a nest egg to make sure that their future is secure. They want to spend their older years doing some helpful things for others, but they also want to be sure they have enough gold stored up so they don't have to face hardships along the way. Well, you might even have met people who are planning their wedding, but are still holding on to their contact list of past romances just in case things don't work out. You know, the little black book tucked away that you don't tell anybody about. Oh, that's not being recorded. Edit that. Cut. Barnacles. You might even. They're in love. They want to be committed to their spouse to be, but it seems foolish to burn all the bridges, just in case. Some people enter the relationship with Jesus with the same cautious and safety-minded attitude. They like the idea of grace, a friendship with God, the gift of the cross, promises of heaven. But if things get tough, they still want a fallback position, something to go back to. They want to keep their options open. Well, during the aggressive persecution of Christians in the first century, a lot of new believers retreated from their faith. They backed up. Some had been Jewish before the meeting of the Messiah. And once the heat was turned up, they turned away from Jesus, went back to their Jewish faith. They chose plan B and missed God's best for their life. And in response to the epidemic of people giving up and giving in, the New Testament book of Hebrews was written to call believers into Jesus to hold on to that plan A, to refuse to retreat, to press forward toward God's will. And those words found in Hebrews 12, 1 through 3, capture that heartbeat of the epistle. It says, therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let's throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let's run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinners, so that you won't grow weary and lose heart. That's pretty powerful stuff if you think about it. Sometimes we're so worried about the plan Bs and the plan As, we have a tendency, listen, you're always taught you've got to have a plan B. You've got to have a plan B. But I think when it comes to your relationship with Christ, you can't have that fallback. You've got to be, that the whole emphasis of this book, all in. You got to be all in. There is no plan B when it comes to Jesus. You give your life to Christ. You follow Christ all your life. There is no retreat. There is no going back. What's going to be better? What could be better than living a life for Christ? So, if you go to your notes in the video discussion, it says, in a culture that values and encourages leaving our options open, how does a burn the ships attitude stand out? And have you ever witnessed someone burn the ships and slam the door on their options and escape routes? You know? Now no one's going to talk.
Well, it's almost unheard of.
Recording. I can't believe it. What's that?
I said it's almost unheard of right now for anybody just to put all their eggs in one basket.
That's kind of what the culture dictates, right?
I know someone who does. Like my former youth pastor gives me. He's all out. He's all out doing what he knows is what God wants. He doesn't take breaks, doesn't stop. He's constantly doing the Lord right. He doesn't take breaks, doesn't take protests, doesn't do anything but what he's called to do.
And that's rare, you know? That's kind of the culture. People want that. Well, if this doesn't work out. And it's so true what they said about the relationship aspect. Maybe people aren't holding on to their little black books, but they do have it in the back of their mind. They're going to say, hey, if it doesn't work out, I'll just do this. Yeah, whatever, you know, whatever that may be. Edit that. So, you know, if you thought about what it would look like in very practical terms to burn the ships in the following areas of life, you know, you think back, and it's easy to go back to past failures that we've had in life. Because if you failed at something, you know how to do it miserably, right? Mm-hmm. So it's easier to go back and it's like, well, if you're not going to try, you already know what that failure looks like. You can retreat to that. The same thing goes back to past successes that were part of Plan B. Or back to a bad habit, whatever that bad habit is. We don't need to make a list of bad habits because that would take up the rest of our time. You know, there's plenty of bad habits, and we don't want to go back to those. Back to regrets of not doing something. You know, especially when it comes to the things of God. You know, you don't ever want to be in your life at that point where you say, I wish I would have tried doing this for God. I wish I would have put more effort into getting involved with this ministry or doing that or whatever the case may be. Don't have any regrets when it comes to the things of God. That's just something that I would tell you from personal. Burning the ships back to an unhealthy and ungodly relationship. You know, if you're one of those guys that are single and you have premarital sex, and you know, a lot of us did because we weren't all saved before we got married. But if you're still single and you're in that point, you don't go back because it's, you know, you break up with somebody and you broke up for a reason, right? And then being away from them for a little while and then go a little bit of time without some, then all of a sudden it's like, wow, they're so sweet. You know, maybe we should just get back. And then, you know, you get back together, you have your sex, and about a week later you go, it's like, oh, now I remember why I broke up with you. You know?
That's bad.
Right. Okay? So there's a reason why you don't go back to those unhealthy and ungodly relationships. Back to a crippling guilt. You know, guilt's not from God. That's just not from God. And it's very difficult sometimes to discern what is of God and what's not of God. Because, man, the enemy can mess with your mind. Big time. And you need to be able to discern what's right and what's wrong. But I can tell you that guilt is not from God. It's just not. Back to an addiction. Again, we could spend the rest of the evening talking about different addictions. But I'll put it in as bad habits. Or back to an old way of life. You know? Hopefully we're all growing. We're all moving forward. You know, if you are not seeing progress in your walk of Christianity, then you're not doing something. I don't know what it is. Everybody's situation is different. Maybe you come to church, but you don't pay attention. You know, maybe you got ADD and you spend more time looking at your phone than you do listening to the words. maybe you really don't, when praise and worship's going on, maybe you're just kind of singing along and, you know, trying to figure out a dance that you could make up to go along with the song instead of actually trying to get into a connection with God and actually feel His presence. I don't know what it is, you know, but there's a multitude of things that will keep us from growing spiritually with God. And if you've been in the church, this church or any other church, and you've given your life to Christ and it's been a little bit of time, you should be progressing, not going backwards. Do you all agree with that?
Yes.
If you look at the next page, you look at Genesis 6, it talks about the wickedness and judgment of man. It says, now it came to pass when men began to multiply on the face of the earth and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw the daughters of men, that they were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, all of whom they chose. And the Lord said, my spirit shall not strive with man forever, for he is indeed flesh. Yet his days shall be 120 years. There were giants on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of men, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown. Then the Lord saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every intent of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually. And the Lord was sorry that he made man on earth, and he was grieved in his heart. So the Lord said, I'm going to destroy man whom I've created from the face of the earth, both man and beast, creeping things and birds of the air, for I am sorry that I have made them. But Noah found grace in the eyes of the Lord. This is the genealogy of Noah. Noah was just a man perfect in his generations. Noah walked with God, and Noah begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was also corrupt before God, and the earth was filled with violence. So God looked upon the earth, and indeed it was corrupt, for all the flesh had corrupted their way on earth. And God said to Noah, the end of all flesh has come before me, for the earth is filled with violence through them, and behold, I will destroy them with the earth. Make yourself an ark of gopher wood. Make rooms in the ark, and cover it inside and outside with pitch. And this is how you shall make it. The length of the ark shall be 300 cubits, its width 50 cubits, its height 30 cubits. And you're going to make a window for the ark. You're going to finish it to a cubit from above, and set the door of the ark in its side. You shall make it with a lower second and third deck, and behold, I myself am bringing floodwaters on the earth to destroy from under heaven all flesh in which is the breath of life. Everything that's on the earth shall die. But I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you, your sons, your wife, and your sons' wives with you. And of every living thing of all flesh you shall bring 2 of every sort into the ark, to keep them alive with you. They shall be male and female. Of the birds after their kind, of animals after their kind, and of every creeping thing of the earth after its kind. 2 of every kind will come to you to keep them alive. And you shall take for yourself of all food that is eaten. You shall gather it to yourself, and it shall be food for you and them. Thus Noah did according to all that God commanded him, so he did. Now by faith Noah, being divinely warned of things not yet seen, moved with godly fear, prepared an ark for the saving of his household, by which he condemned the world and became heir of the righteousness which is according to faith. Noah and his family built an enormous boat in the middle of the desert, a project that took 120 years to complete. That guy and his family members have invested more than 6 decades to carving a likeness of the Native American chief Crazy Horse in the Black Hills of South Dakota, projected to be finished in 2050. What characteristics and quality does a person need to press on with a massive and difficult task?
Endurance.
Huh?
Endurance.
Endurance? Huh? Commitment?
Yeah, that's a big one.
How about vision? I am so hot.
It is hot.
You got to have the commitment. You got to have the endurance. You got to have the vision, and you got to be willing to, you got to be willing to see ahead. You know, these people that are building this project of Crazy Horse, I don't know. They're Native Americans, right? Am I getting that right? Or this family that's doing it?
Sounds like a Russian name.
Zilkowski? Okay. Polish, something.
Polish to me.
Okay. They're Polish American Indians. But whatever they are, okay,
They're rich.
well, they may be rich, but don't you think it's taking faith to be able to say that we're going to do this for the next umpteen years, to take on a project that you know that you will not see the finish of for however long it was before they even got started, that's tremendous commitment. So how do you think that a person committed to such a task be viewed by the general population?
They're crazy.
Some would say they're crazy, right? But then again, I'll bet you when someone started doing the, what's the name of the one with the presidents? Rushmore. You think people thought they were crazy? And then all of a sudden when it gets finished and you take a step back and you go, my gosh, it really does look like those guys. I mean, that was a super feat. So people are always going to say things. And one of the things that we have to remember is we can't be swayed by what people say or what people think. You know? And I love what he said in the video because you hear it all the time, and if you read any kind of leadership books, you're going to hear this consistently in leadership books. And the only time that you ever fail is when you stop trying. That's when you fail. Because if you sat down and you go, well, I tried this once, it didn't work, therefore I'm done. Well, if you go through history, you know, there are so many people that made it big that failed so many times before they made it big that had they given up the first time when they failed, we never would have had anything. I mean, I can think of Edison off the top of my head. I can think of Abraham Lincoln off the top of my head. I can think of, you know, all these different people that had major setbacks, major failures, but yet they persisted until they reached greatness. And think about all the lack that this country alone would have had it not been for those people continually striving to do something more. Maybe you know somebody, including you, that tenaciously or actively pursued a commitment even when others might have walked away. Maybe it was a spouse who stuck around after a serious accident or a diagnosis of a life-altering illness. Or maybe it was an employee that stayed with a struggling company even when there was no raises to be given. The Christian faith demands a devotion to the long haul, long-term commitments, long obedience in the same direction. And the question would be, is there a way that you've learned to increase your commitment, endurance, and stamina as you followed Jesus in the tough times of life? Have you found a better way to deal with it? Or have you learned to increase your commitment? Has anybody found that to be true since they've given their life to Christ?
The first time I read the book of Nehemiah, it really, I don't know, just that book is like mainly just about leadership, about Nehemiah and the whole thing that was given upon him. What I really grasped, I mean, the task that was given him, how he spent to, you know, rebuild the temple and then rebuild the walls of Jerusalem. I mean, that just opened up my eyes right away, is that, you know, I have to continuously rebuild the walls of Christ in my heart so that Satan can't penetrate through. Because if it wasn't for that, then Satan then I won't be able to discern God's Holy Spirit because Satan will be in there toying with me. So that, I mean, from when I read Nehemiah, that's the first thing that clicked.
That's
is
good.
to continuously uphold that wall.
That's good. Somebody else?
For me, it's my kids are somewhat my motivation just with that, because for me to grow spiritually and be committed, because if I'm not there to be the head of the household or the head priest in a sense in the house, then who's going to be teaching my kids? You know, someone else will, and I don't know their views. So for me, my commitment to God is also to a degree has to do with my commitment to my kids.
Okay. What about to your spouse?
Well, yeah, her too.
Okay. Can you state your name for the tape? All right. Anybody that's going to be the famous comment for the last session? Edit. Yes.
Remember, I can put names underneath.
What?
I learned to trust God more and faith more by watching how Jesus was, like looking at the scripture on what Jesus did, who he was, and exactly what he stood for. By reading it and learning it, and saying, okay,
Anybody else? No? Okay. Then, Mark says this about going all out for God. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. It doesn't seek 15 minutes of fame, it seeks eternal glory. It doesn't care about public opinion, it lives for the applause of nail-scarred hands. It's not satisfied with what the world has to offer, its only objective is my utmost for his highest. How does that kind of attitude fly in the face of modern culture with its pay now mindset? Well, it doesn't. You know, it really doesn't. I mean, you agree? I don't think it is, because the mindset, the culture of the people today is, it is a sprint. Because you got to get what you can when you can. Strike while the fire is hot, right? And you know, it's not, you want that 15 minutes of fame. You want as much, if you can get the fame now, get it for as long as you can, because it's not going to last forever. Right? It doesn't care about public opinion, but we do care about public opinion. Right? Because we all want to be liked, we all want to be talked about in a good way. You know, shoot, don't even get me started. No, for real, I'm telling you, you know, public opinion is a killer for ministers. Because everybody's got something to say. It's not just ministers. Everybody got something to talk smack about. You know? People thrive on smack. I don't know why. You know? And I ain't talking about the drug. I'm just talking about talking in negative about somebody. You know? Somebody gets rubbed the wrong way, and the first thing that they want to do is their way of getting back or their way of feeling better is to go and tell somebody and talk smack. You know? Well, so-and-so is this, so-and-so is that. Man, I got a hard time with that, you know? And as Christians, we're not supposed to do that. Forget about, and then talk about your ministers. I'm not just talking about me, you know? That just frosts me, you know? It just absolutely frosts me. Edit. So, I don't know. You know, everything that it says goes against what the Christian principalities are. You know, it's against that. And does it fly in the face of modern culture? Yeah, it flies right and smacks it in the face, because it goes against everything that it is. You know, they say, you know, give your life to Christ, you know, your life is going to change. Yeah, it's going to change, but you're going to go through hell. Okay. You know? Everyone has this perception that's not a Christian, you know, because when we're trying to bring somebody to Christ, you're not going to tell them, hey man, give your life to Christ, you're going to go through hell, but go give your life to Christ, and your life's going to be better overall because you're going to go to heaven. But you're going to suffer hell here on earth. You ain't going to get nobody to come to Christ by going and doing that. So we paint this beautiful picture of what giving your life to Christ is. And don't get me wrong, giving your life to Christ is a phenomenal change that you go through. Christ has the power to change a person's life like that. But once you give your life to Christ and you find out what it really is to be a Christian, you know that saying that says, hey, you know, you're either in the middle of a storm or you're coming out of a storm or you're getting ready to go into a storm. That's the Christian life, you know? And you just ain't going to get anybody saved by going around telling people that. But that's the hard fact truth. And as Christians, we're supposed to realize that, recognize that, be prayed up for that, be ready for that, but we're not. Because we get the carpet pulled out from under us all the time. And so it's difficult to be able to do that. I'm just being real, you know? Word. So, if someone followed you with a video camera for a month, which Ed's been doing, and recorded everything you said and filmed everything you did,
Edit that.
what do you think that he would say that your life is all about? I don't see nobody raising their hand to answer that one. Okay, so let's just leave that as a question you should be pondering.
He needs more sleep.
Huh?
Self-reflecting question.
Okay? But just think about that. You know, I've used this example before. I've used this example before. Sometimes we gotta envision Jesus sitting on our shoulder. Sees everything, hears everything, watches everything. How are you gonna talk to people if Jesus is sitting on your shoulder? How are you gonna act if Jesus is sitting on your shoulder? How are you gonna interact with your spouse or your kids if Jesus is sitting on your shoulder? I mean legitimately, like, you know, if any of you are old enough to remember the Flip Wilson show, you know, he constantly had, you know, the devil on one side and the angel on the other side. Do you remember that? Right?
I don't even remember that, I'm not that old.
And, but legitimately, if you can remember, you know, I mean, seriously, would that make a difference in the way that we acted? If he really was there at all times?
I think so.
Absolutely.
You still slip up and have the moments of anger.
You know what? That's
hostility.
what grace is all about. But knowing that, your mindset changes completely. It's kind of like when you were younger and your parents were around. You acted totally different in front of your parents than you did when you were with your friends.
Oh, of course.
Anybody not act different in front of their parents than they did in front of their friends? Because you'd be lying.
House of
Oh, you'd be
respect.
lying. No, come on.
No, 'cause I was just always wrong.
Okay, I believe you did. I believe you did. I believe that. But the majority of you all acted different around your parents than you did around your friends. You know? Those of you that were smoking dope or smoking cigarettes or drinking alcohol or doing whatever, you did not do that in front of your parents. Because most of you were doing it before. What? Most of you were doing it before you were actually at the legal age to do it anyway. And there is no legal age to smoke pot, just so you know. Okay?
Just want to get it out there.
Edit. There's a lot of editing. We're just gonna go. Men's Real Talk on 525. Exactly. A lot of white snow. Did you have a comment? Oh, you had a comment?
It's funny how we say that well, how would we act if God was there, all watching us, and we had him right there? But he's there. You know, we just don't think of it like, yeah, he's not. His camera is not right here, but he's always watching what we do. We
Right.
never think of that.
You're absolutely right, but that's the same thing as by, you know, it's like we're called to walk by faith and not by sight. But it's so much easier to believe something when you see it, right?
Right.
So too would be the same thing with, I mean, yes, I agree with you 1,000%. We know he's there, we know he sees everything, but it's out of sight, out of mind, right? Because, you know, you'll go do something and then you'll come back again. Here's the presence of God, or here's God. I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go over here. I'm gonna do this. It's like, and thank you, Father, for your grace and for your mercy and for second and third and fourth chances, right? Like he didn't see you going over there, okay? It's like, okay, son, go ahead. I'm gonna close my eyes.
Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
Right? It's not, you ain't playing hide and seek with the Lord, you know? He knows what's going on, but yet we convince ourselves or justify to ourselves that, oh, he didn't see that. Or his grace is sufficient. You know, you can only play that song so many times before it gets old. You know? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You picking up what I'm throwing down?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? I gotta go here, then I'll go there.
I know I go through every day with a lot of, I live with a bunch of idiots. I mean, my little brothers, they're idiots. Now you can,
Edit. Keep going. And my name is...
I get angry all the time, and I think, you know, God's always watching me, always, you know, he's always there. I know he's always there. Even if he was on my shoulder, or he's, you know, by faith, he's there, he's just there. I mean, probably be the same way. But I try to cut it down so much. My mom told me something that, if God were to come right now, right this minute, what would you want him to catch you doing?
First you wanted to say, wouldn't you not want to catch you?
No,
Trying to sleep.
what would you want him to catch you doing? Would you want to be reading the Bible when he came, or would you want to be
Something that edifies God or glorifies God or something along those lines, as opposed to something that would bring shame to you, you know, something that he looks at and says, my good and faithful servant, servant.
always have to know that he's always going to be there?
Right.
Or what you wouldn't want him
No, I think he hit it on the head. What do you want him to see? It goes both ways. Yeah, absolutely. Mr. Herrera. You forgot? I was talking about presence of God, stepping out of the presence of God, playing hide and seek with God. Okay, we'll come back to you. Did you have a comment?
A comment on his, I just thought of it, or now that when he was speaking of that, what if God comes to you doing something sinful, but your heart is in the right place? You know, we always sin, some way, somehow, it's sin.
We are sinners.
Correct. But
Saved
I just-
by what?
grace.
Grace.
So it's kind of just bad timing, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you can't say, can you give me 5? You know?
Yeah.
That's-
Let's say you're driving, right? You're driving and you see like a pretty girl, you turn around and God comes at that moment.
Yeah, you turn forward.
You know, just because I have the title of pastor doesn't mean I can answer all your questions.
Yeah.
There are some questions that can't be answered, we don't know how God thinks, we don't know, because our thoughts are not his thoughts.
Yeah.
And his ways are not our ways. And so when the best answer that I would be able to give you is try not to leave yourself in that situation.
Yeah.
Try not to, it's like you can admire a beautiful girl as long as you don't look at her with lust. And your wife is not around. That's just common sense, God gave us wisdom.
You would think it would be you're safe when he comes at that
Edit.
moment.
Edit.
You would think you're safe. You're saved by grace. You're saying, like it's like I love my son, but I kind of like breaking something. Like
Okay.
I still love you.
I got it. Okay. So there's that time of judgment.
Yeah.
And I mean, everybody's gonna go through it. The thing is that we're gonna go through that time of judgment, and we're gonna recall those moments. Like, he's not gonna be like, "Oh, now you're going to hell."
Big screen.
No, but he's gonna tell you, "Hey, so you knew in your mind what you're doing, yet you still chose to do it." We have to answer to that. See, it's a whole different kind of judgment from what a non-believer is gonna go through. It's a whole different kind of judgment.
You're still gonna go out, but you'll be judged later.
Well, you
Like,
have-
it's,
you
it's
have
okay.
to-
like
You know right from
you just-
wrong. And
Yeah.
you have to.
You have to answer
Even though
that.
you make the wrong
Eventually,
choices,
you
you
have to
have
answer
to
that
live
to
a life
God.
right.
So knowing that girl's gonna go there, your mind go there. Well, how am I gonna answer that to God if I know already in my mind that I'm gonna look at her, I'm gonna lust? How am I gonna answer that? I'm gonna say, yeah, you know what, God, I knew I was gonna lust and I still loved. Are you gonna? Is that something that?
So,
Yeah.
It's something
Okay,
to be forgiven.
let me go to Ozzy because he remembered.
It was about what you were saying, justifying stepping out and then coming back.
That's what I
You say,
said.
"Oh, did you see that?" And some of us, I know I do it, and I pray about it. But we do it and we say something like, "Well, God knows my heart." You know what I mean? Like,
But that's exactly true. God knows your heart. So you can justify it all you want, you still, bad is bad.
Sometimes we fall in that. You know what I
Still
mean?
know
It's
right
like,
from wrong.
well, you know what I mean? I know I do it. You know what I mean? It's like, well, God knows my heart. He knows that this and that. But then some of us will be like, well, He knows my heart. I want to do it, but He knows my heart.
Okay, so here's the deal. Let me ask you this, and I know you have your hand up, so let me ask you this. What is sin?
It's doing something that God is forbidden to do.
The what?
There's no question.
Oh, it's shit.
It's doing something that God is forbidden you to do. Sin is basically saying, screw you, God, I'm gonna do it my way.
Okay, that might be one way of putting it. Let me hear somebody else's definition.
It's whatever sin is what separates us from God.
Okay, that's another answer. Let me tell you my definition of sin. My definition of sin is this. What does it say in the Bible? To know that is right and to do the opposite. That's sin. Simple as that. God doesn't make it too difficult for us to understand because He knows we're a bunch of dummies, right? So He just said, look, just like you said, we know what's right, we know what's wrong. If you know what's right and you choose to do the opposite, that's sin. Bottom line.
And the word also says, even on our best, we are as filthy
Filthy
rags.
as rags. yeah.
I mean, you know,
That's where
No.
we have to, listen, there is no perfection here,
there isn't.
okay? You can try your best and you're still a sinner, okay? But the good news is, you're a sinner that is saved by grace, okay? So, I've got 10 minutes to finish this entire lesson, and I'm sure by now you've lost your bet. So,
No, actually, I won. He lost.
yes,
They've done studies on tribes that have never had people like Christians or any contact with the outside world before. And these people know the difference between right and wrong. They know not to cheat, not to kill, not to lie. This is stuff that's bred in, and these people know what is right and what's wrong. So if someone that's in a tribe that's never had any outside contact knows what's right and wrong, we surely should know what's right and wrong.
that's true. That is true. All right, with that said, let's move on. So, if you were to write one short sentence describing why you're on this earth and what you're supposed to do with your life, what would you write? One sentence to say what you're supposed to do with your life on this earth, what would you write? One sentence.
A life lived in fear is a life past lived.
Okay. Anybody else?
What I'm supposed to do? What, that's your question, right?
Why are you on the earth and what are you supposed to do with your life?
Well, I'm on the earth because God, brought me here. He wanted me here for a purpose. And, what I want to do is, what I should do is get as many people saved and to go to heaven, not to hell.
Okay.
That's what I should.
To follow the Great Commission, the last commandment of the Lord.
Follow the Great Commission. Anybody else?
Glorify God.
Serve the Lord and protect and provide for my family.
Okay. Isn't that basically you're justifying having a John Pete? Three before the end of the year.
Yes. And a rifle.
All right.
He's gonna put it in my-
Well, Mark tells a story of pursuing writing because he knew it was something God wanted him to do, even though it took 13 years for the first sign of accomplishment to become a reality. To follow his calling demanded daily and often painful discipline. What are some ways you need to adjust your lifestyle and priorities to align with what you believe God's placed you in this planet to do? That could go on forever, but there are things that we all need to adjust in our lives to be able to fulfill what God's called us to do. And that takes regimen, that takes determination, that takes vision. So hopefully we're gaining that by being here. Judges 3:31 says, after him was Shamgar the son of Anath, who killed 600 men of the Philistines with an ox goad, and he delivered Israel. Judges 5:6 says, in the days of Shamgar the son of Anath, in the days of Jael, the highways were deserted and the travelers walked along the byways.
One question.
Yes.
What is an ox goad?
An ox goad?
Goad, yeah.
This guy knows.
What?
Just Google
This
it.
guy knows.
Go ahead.
And Google says it is, there's definitions for it.
The goad of an ox.
The goad is a traditional farming implement used to spur or guide livestock, usually oxen. Like a
Yeah,
driving
it's a,
tool.
well, just think about the
So you
word
killed 600
goad.
people with a pick?
It's kind of like when you goad somebody on. It's kind of like,
Okay.
so that's where the.
Okay, I got you.
So it's,
You know those fire
I got
plates
you.
goes to move the logs around, it's got that hook at the end of it, it's similar to that.
that's messed up.
An ox goad.
That's a messed up way to go.
That is-
That's a slow death. It's not instant.
Isaiah 6:1-8 says, in the year that King Uzziah died, I saw the Lord sitting on a throne high and lifted up, and the train of his robe filled the temple. Above it stood seraphim, each one had 6 wings. With 2 he covered his face, 2 he covered his feet, and with 2 he flew. One cried to another and said, holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts. The whole earth is full of his glory. And the posts of the door were shaken by the voice of him who cried out, and the house was filled with smoke. So I said, woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips. And I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips, for my eyes have seen the King, the Lord of hosts. Then one of the seraphim flew to me, having in his hand a live coal which he had taken with the tongues from the altar, and he touched my mouth with it and said, behold, this has touched your lips, your iniquity is taken away, and your sin purged. Also I heard the voice of the Lord saying, whom shall I send, and who will go for us? And then I said, here I am, send me. Shamgar the judge didn't have the right heritage, training, weapon, or support network, but he also didn't have any excuses. He took what he had and went out to deliver the people of Israel. Isaiah was trembling in his sandals, but he was willing to follow God. How can being willing to say, here I am, send me, become the beginning of a whole new adventure of faith? You know, a lot of us will sit here and say, again, justifying or coming up with excuses why we can't do something. Well, I don't read my Bible enough. I'm not holy enough. Pastor Allan tells me all the time I got to improve on this, and this. But listen, man, if God's got something for you to do, it doesn't matter how much you read, how much you know, how much you do. If God can use a donkey, okay, God can use me, God can use you, God can pick out anybody he wants to serve a purpose. So don't have an excuse as to why you can't do something, because God's got something for everybody to do, and you are perfectly and wonderfully made to accomplish that goal that he set out for you to do. I question myself all the time. Man, I got no business being a pastor. I got no business being over the men's ministry. I got no business being over the marriage ministry. But you know what? I hate to say it is what it is.
Well, Mark said it, and I mean, we've all heard it. He doesn't call to prepare, he prepares the call.
Yeah, no, that's totally true. You know, and that's the thing is, you know, I'm amazed when I see what God does, and that he can use me to do it. Because believe me when I tell you, I stand here before you very humbly and tell you I take no credit for what God does through you guys, or through the marriages, or whatever God does through those things. I am just humbled to be able to be the vessel that he does it through. And my wife the same way, you know. And so that I hope you have that same attitude that, listen, God, just use me in the way that you want me to be used. And I know that whatever it is, because believe me when I tell you, every time I get up to speak at Fusion, every time I get up to speak to men, tomorrow night I'm speaking in the main service, and before I get up and do that, I'm going to ask God to give me the words, because surely I can't do this by myself. You know, I'm not going to tell you I'm just a little Mexican from the dirt streets of Corona, because I'm not. And somebody else is already using that one. You know, but I'm not. I'm the little Jewish boy from the East Coast, is what I am. You know. So, you know, the bottom line is God's got a calling on each and every one of our lives, and we just have to be able to recognize that God can do great things through anybody he wants. So what's the next step in your journey of following God with passion and commitment? What's your next step? You know, this is the last time that we're going to meet. I mean, yeah, we're going to go to the baseball game, and yeah, there's things coming up, and we have the men's retreat and all that, but what are you going to do between now and the next time we start getting together for Men's Real Talk? What are you going to do for that next step in your journey with God? Don't leave me hanging, because then I'm going to walk away feeling like, man, you encouraged them to do absolutely nothing.
We got to go all in, even though we're not.
But what's your next step? You know I say it all the time, don't flap your lips at me, tell me what you're going to do.
Open the Bible more, study more. On Tuesdays, if we're not going to get together, open your Bible still, you know. Try, you know, get some, if you know a phone number of somebody, try to get together. If not, at least in your own time, make Tuesdays be a day of open your Bible, not just watching another baseball game. You know, okay, we're not getting together, but this is the Tuesday that this is a Tuesday that we're going to get together. Well, let me open the Bible for a little bit. Let me see what he wants me to do.
Good.
I just want to open up like my house, you know,
thing that's really been placed in my heart, I mean, I don't got school, but one thing that I love the most, and I mean, anybody that talks to me, there's no doubt about it, I love digging into the Word. And I mean, I don't know everything 100%, but whatever I do know, man, I would love to share with whoever. I mean, because it really it helped me, you know? And so, I mean, that's my biggest thing is like, I like just to meet up with whoever. I mean, I know there's so many men here that know so much more than I, and I would just love to take some of that in too.
So check this out. So since Ozzy is willing to open up his house, and Ozzy can't go anywhere. Once he gets home from work, you are allowed to go to work, right?
Yeah, work, but.
And then you come home.
Come home, I gotta say, I can't.
No, I understand. That I think we all pretty much know what house arrest is. Yeah, if Ozzy's willing to open up his house, if you guys are interested in going to his house on every other Tuesday night, staying on the same schedule, you know, and maybe it's not every other Tuesday, maybe it's once a month, whatever the case may be, see Ozzy after we're done, or see Daniel, maybe Ozzy and Daniel will kind of jointly put this together, and we'll go from there. And if somebody else wants to do a group on the other side of town, then I'm all down with that, as long as it's run in a godly manner, okay? Anybody else have any comments regarding that? Yes?
I'm gonna make a total commitment to work with my friends and my relatives that aren't saved. And that's gonna be what my commitment's gonna be.
Okay. Anybody else?
I'm gonna play less Xbox.
Less Xbox.
Try.
Okay. Do you have live?
Yeah.
That's part of the problem. Somebody's gotta come up with a Bible Xbox game, you know?
No, but I sold my Xbox.
I know.
There's my phone and renewed my license, and my little brother got bedridden in school and got his Xbox taken, and they gave it to me. So I came up with another Xbox.
So there's that justification, it's like, that means God wants me. That's a blessing from the Lord, that's confirmation, yes.
I'm gonna spend more time in prayer and God's word.
That's good, that's good.
And as you were saying, so much you come up with a Bible game, that's actually one of my, I guess I've had for a very long time, I actually wanted to make a.
We'll make it happen, you're wasting time.
Make a game that is all about the spiritual armor of God.
Well, you're wasting time, get going. You could be rich by now, you could be taking all of us to the Dodger game. Well, you got, just work on it.
It takes
All
a
right,
lot of effort.
let's,
My brother wants a computer program.
hey,
It takes years to make.
Mr. H,
Takes years.
Mr. H, do you want that edited? Do you want that edited? What you were saying about the prayer and the whole home thing and?
No.
No?
No.
All right, so that was Ozzy. No, what? Yeah. All right, let's bring your paperwork up here. Let's pray for it.
¿Cómo estás?